Hey everyone, it's Jim, the Uncouth, Untrained Chef, back with you again because I didn't learn my lesson last time. Today we're going to make fucking chili. I love chili. It's one of my favorite comfort foods, so I'm going to show you one of my favorite recipes for it. There's thousands of recipes out there for chili. Some are more stew-like. I like to make mine more dense and heavy. So we'll move over to the prep table and start getting things ready. Right, so as you can see, chili is a little more complicated than a tuna melt. So for the sauce, we've got tomato sauce, diced tomatoes with green chilies, tomato paste, and chili pinto beans and kidney beans. And for seasonings, we've got white pepper. This is one of my secret ingredients. Ground cumin, oregano, chili powder, garlic, and cayenne pepper. And then for the main course, we've got 2 pounds of ground beef. I'm using 80% lean because I'm poor. If you can go 90 or 93%, that's even better, because when I make this, I'm actually going to have to drain off some of the grease before I can go from ground beef to stew. And then, of course, 1 medium yellow onion should give me about a cup to a cup and a half of diced onion, 3 habanero chili peppers, and 2 jalapeno peppers. Now, when it comes to dealing with peppers, if you have latex gloves, I strongly recommend that you wear latex gloves. If not, use a little bit of saran wrap and keep the saran wrap between your fingers and the chili. If you've never worked with raw chilies before, you will learn a very valuable lesson. If you don't use gloves, you handle the chilies, and anytime in the next 4 hours, you go to the bathroom. That is a pain you will feel for hours. Even if you wash your hand, the capsaicin just stays with you. So try to keep any capsaicin from getting on your fingers with plastic wrap or latex gloves. So we're going to try, and some green onion for the finish. So yeah, we're going to try to mount the camera up in a way that I can actually cut things with the camera running, and we're going to see if that works or if it's a horrible, tragic mistake. So we'll be back in... Oh yeah, I think we figured out a solution for the time. I've got a better solution coming eventually thanks to a friend of mine, but for now, this will do. So we're going to start with our onion. And now, Alton Brown would be freaking out because I'm cutting the end off this onion, but that's the way I do it, so, you know, Alton Brown can just suck it. And we got the top off, stand it up, cut it right in half. We're going to peel off the first layer with the skin. And there we go, we've got 2 onion halves. Now, on the onion, we're going to lay them flat side down, front towards you, end at the back of you. And then we're going to start by slicing nearly all the way through it, but we're going to leave just a little bit so it stays together. For this, we're going for about a 1/2 inch square dice. On the very end piece, very carefully shave off that last little bit. We'll consider that trash. And move our diced onion into a bowl, and then do the other half. I know I'm not breaking another cardinal chef rule by putting my finger on the tip of the blade, but it works better for me. I've tried to do it this way, and I end up, wobbling the knife, and whatever. I still haven't cut a finger off. Let's hope it stays that way. There we have a nice even dice on the onions. And we're going to go with the habaneros first because they are the most painful to deal with. think I said 3, but I ended up getting 4 at the store, so we're just going to make it a little more spicy. By the way, when you do the habaneros, you've got any of the peppers, you've got 2 options, with or without the seeds. The more seeds you have in it, the spicier your dish is going to be. I've got other ways of making it spicy, so I'm going to leave the seeds out of mine because I don't want to hurt myself. So again, as I said before, I don't have latex gloves, so I'm just going to take a little piece of plastic wrap and kind of wrap it around my fingers, so never actually touching it. And we're going to slice the habaneros in half. Then we're going to use that plastic to pull out the inside so we've got it nice and seedless. I think I just touched the side of the pepper, so I got to remember this hand cannot go anywhere near my junk. Because you totally wanted to picture me touching my junk. Seeds in this one are being a bit more stubborn, but usually if you flip it over and tap it, they come right out. Don't worry, I'll clean that up later. All right, now, if you flip them over like this, they're a lot easier to handle because you can actually kind of touch them without worrying about too much pain. Ones like this, you want to make sure that you've got all of the end bits off, so I'll have to cut that off of some of these, but others are nice and clean. And we want to do these in a pretty fine dice. We don't want big chunks of habanero. Now that I made that first cut, it's saran wrap time again because now there's oils all over the sides of the peppers. By the way, if you like to cook, you really need to invest in a good quality knife. Nice quality chef knife makes all the difference in the world. I'm really partial to these Japanese style ones. And here we are with 4 diced habanero chilies. Again, try to be real careful not to touch them. Scoop them up with the blade of your knife. Dump them on your onion. The peppers and the onions will go in the pot at the same time, so it's fine that they mix. Now get rid of that plastic wrap, and now we've got the jalapenos. Again, with the jalapenos on the outside of them, it's okay if you touch them. They're a little more mild. They're not going to hurt you. And as you can hear, Doobie is adding his commentary. He really, really, really wants a jalapeno because he has never had a jalapeno and doesn't know that he doesn't want a jalapeno. You'll notice I cut the fronts, I cut the tops of the jalapenos off. And then cut them in half lengthwise. They're bigger and much easier to work with, so same thing, we're going to scoop all of the white parts and seeds out. And do that just by sticking our finger through some saran wrap. Again, if you don't have gloves, this is the best way to do it. The seed pod comes out nice and easy. Hit it a few times, and there we go. Oh, one little hanger on. There we go. Now this one, as you can see when I ran my finger down it, decided to be a little bit tough. If you go from the other end, it should come right out. And if it's still being stubborn, you can always just grab your trusty knife and shave it out. There we go, nice and clean. Again, go from the top, grab that seed pod. Keep pulling out the white bits and the seeds. Bag it down a couple of times, one little seed hiding in the back there. And nice and clean. And last one, see if I turn it this way, maybe you can actually see what I'm doing. So you'll see the white little hole there. Yeah, move it over here. There we go, now you can see it. And there we go. Now saran wrap away. Scoop all those seeds off for later cleanup. And there we are. So these will get a slightly thicker dice than the habaneros because they're not quite as hot. All right, now that we have them down to sticks, we are going to saran wrap because now there's capsaicin oil everywhere again. I gotta push them together. Of course, I had a few of them turned sideways. Anything to make me look bad. But otherwise, we got a nice even cut here. These last stubborn pieces. And there we go, 2 diced jalapenos. Now we will scoop those right on top of the habaneros and onions. And finally, we're going to break out the green onions. We're not going to be using them in the recipe quite yet, but might as well get them all prepped and ready to go. I bought these a while ago and they're starting to get a little bit gross. Anything floppy like that, just peel right off. Oh, by the way, I've heard a rumor that I haven't actually tried yet, that if you do get capsaicin powder or capsaicin oils on your hands or face or junk or whatever, soaking them in milk is supposed to work. And feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, even though, again, I'll probably never actually read them. Because my green onions are getting a little gross, I'm only going to do the whitest parts. Now, when it comes to doing soup versus doing stew, there are different pots to use. That is a soup pot. Do not use it for stews. That is a stew pot. Do not use it for soup. Stew pots are nice and heavy, thick, metal. If you can get a cast iron one of these, go for it. But I don't have one, so a regular heavy metal one works just fine. And that thing will go away and be used later. Alright, so I've had my pan heating for a while, so we're going to take some olive oil. Get it coating all through the bottom of the pan. It's okay to go a little heavy on it. And we're giving that just a minute to start to heat up. Don't let it sit too long in a hot pan or it starts smoking and the smoke alarm goes off and the neighbors come over to check on me and it's a fucking mess. So, add in all of our onions and peppers in one go. It's got that nice sizzle. Get it all mixed up. By the way, if you breathe in, oh, it'll hit you. And then to that, we're going to add 2 heaping teaspoons of garlic, about 4 cloves worth. Now, this pot doesn't have anything cool to touch on it, so I've got to use an oven glove for it. And we're just going to get that all mixed up. Once the garlic's in, you want to stir it for quite a bit, because otherwise, if the garlic sits on the bottom, it will burn, and the flavor will persist through the entire dish and just completely ruin it. So just keep it stirring for a bit. I have no idea if you're going to see this, but there it is all mixed in. We're going to keep mixing and stirring this until all of the onions have gone translucent. In other words, they've kind of lost all their whiteness. But we're going to move to the next step before the onions start to burn. It's okay to give short breaks to the stirring. The smell is making me sweat, so that means we've done it right. Now, actually, before the onions are completely done cooking, the secret ingredient is going in, my white pepper. So apparently, this is a brand new thing of white pepper, and I didn't realize it. So let's see if it pours better when it doesn't have the security tag in it. There we go. A nice teaspoon's worth of white pepper there. And for those of you that don't know, white pepper is typically more spicy than black pepper. It has a little more kick to it. It's the sour, or it's the hot in hot and sour soup in Chinese restaurants. Also, white pepper is kind of hard to find sometimes. If you have an Asian market, that's your answer. They always have it. By the way, Asian markets are the answer for just about everything. I absolutely love Asian markets. Sure, sometimes labels are hard to read, but if you know what you're looking for, they have it, and it's probably cheaper than your local grocery store, and the quality is just as good, if not better. They are also an excellent place for sushi, or for seafood. They are an excellent place for seafood. I always get shrimp dirt cheap there. Large white tiger prawns. Oh, so good. $6.99 a pound. All right, so you can see our onions are getting pretty translucent there. Take the glove off. I'm going to go off camera and open up my hamburger meat. Again, as I said, the leaner the better, so you don't have to drain grease. I couldn't afford the leanest stuff, so we're going 80%, and I'll just spoon out the grease when it's time. Now, what I usually do is I cut off the tips of the chub and then run a slice down the length of the chub. And it comes out nice and easy, and we're just going to kind of crumble it into there. Doesn't have to be too perfect because we're going to break it up with the spoon. Quick rinse before I pop the glove back on. Now we're going to kind of chop and stir, get the beef broken down, mixed into the onion and peppers and white pepper and garlic and all that goodness. And we're just going to keep stirring and chopping until all of the meat is broken down and nice and browned. Probably take about 5 minutes. I'll give the camera a break for this. And I almost forgot, and that would have been bad. See, this is what happens when you don't work with a direct recipe, is you forget ingredients. So follow the recipes, people, or don't and get lucky. But when you first put the meat in, you should get your first dose of chili powder. And you're going to use a lot of chili powder. That's why I have this massive thing. Go about half a cup on the first go round. Then add in your cumin. About a tablespoon or so. You don't want to go too heavy on that or it'll just taste like cumin. And a nice healthy dose of oregano. Go about 2 tablespoons of dried oregano. If you have fresh oregano, 1 tablespoon will be plenty. And cayenne pepper, again, I already know this is going to have a little bit of heat to it, so I'm going to go pretty light on this. Just about half a teaspoon. Now back to mixing. And we're back, and as you can see here, we have nice brown chili. I don't know if the camera angle is going to show it, but you can see a lot of oil coming up in the bottom. That's the problem with the 80% meat. It's super greasy. We want to get some of that grease out of there. So I'm going to put that spoon aside. I grab this little measuring cup. This will be good enough. I'm just pressing the cup down into the meat and having the grease pool up over the top of the cup. If you get a little bit of ground beef in it, don't worry about it. If you want, you can strain it and add the ground beef back. If you haven't lost that much, I wouldn't worry about it. As you can see, that was a lot of excess grease. And only about a spoonful of meat ended up in my grease, so I did pretty good there. Put that back in. And now is the only time I'm likely to add salt to this dish. And I am almost out of salt, so we're just going to use the last of it. About 2 teaspoons. As I said before, I'm not a huge salt nut. I don't need tons of it in my food. I like the flavor of the food more than the flavor of the salt. So give that a good stir. And we are ready to turn it into a stew. So we're going to start with tomato sauce. Actually, I lied. I'm a big liar, and I'm doing this in one cut, which is dumb. So dumb. We're going to start with the kidney beans and the pinto beans. Now the pinto beans, you can get regular pinto beans or you can get the chili ones. I get the chili ones when I'm making chili because it already takes takes the hard work out of flavoring the pinto beans so they don't have to stew quite as long to get to the same level of flavor. Now the juices from the beans do us absolutely no good whatsoever in the dish. You don't want them making a lot of noise here. You don't want the juice, so get rid of it. So go ahead and strain all of your beans in a strainer in the sink, off camera. And all the beans go right into the dish. Right into the pot. All right, now tomato sauce. You'll notice I cut almost all the way through the can, but not completely. That way I don't have to worry about the lid falling off and trying to dig it out. Next, diced tomatoes with green chilies. Same thing, open the lid most of the way, but not all. And dump that right in. And of course, all this juice is going to make the pasta, or going to make the chili nice and thin. We don't want thin chili. So that's where the tomato paste comes in. Now the tomato paste we're going to do a little bit differently. Cut the top off the tomato paste, remove it completely. Then you're going to flip the can over, and don't worry, it's tomato paste. It's not going to pour out. And if the can will cooperate with you, this one apparently is not designed to be cut this way, but we're making do. There we go, cut the bottom of the can. Again, all the way, but don't take this one out. Now you just press. And when it comes out the other side, pull the lid off, scrape the last little bit off, and there you go. An entire thing of tomato paste in one fell swoop without having to fight to get all of it out, or using a spatula and a knife and lots of swear words. Save the swear words for when you realize that you fucked up the recipe, which I don't think I fucked up the recipe. So now we're just going to stir this all together. Now stir it well. You don't want chunks of tomato paste sitting alone doing nothing. You want the tomato paste to thicken up all the juice from the tomato sauce and the diced tomatoes. Now at this point, it is time for round 2 of chili powder. And this chili, you're going to use a lot of chili powder to make proper chili. There we go, about 3/4 of a cup or so. Stir and stir. By the way, if you like your chili nice and spicy and you have hot chili powder, you can feel free to use about a quarter of your chili powder as hot chili powder, or more if you're really, really into spicy foods. I'm going to withhold that because, again, the habaneros, the jalapenos, and the cayenne pepper should cover all of the heat that I need for my diet. Thick, nice thick chili. Now remember those green onions from earlier? Now is the time that we're going to go ahead and put the green onion in. And again, nice stir to incorporate that. And there we go. We've covered all of our ingredients. So the only thing left now is time. So we're going to go ahead and cut the heat back from medium to, put it at about 3. Take the spoon out. We're going to put the lid on. And we are going to walk the fuck away. And we're back for the first check. Pull that lid off. Looks like we're going to have to turn the heat up a little bit because I'm not getting any bubbles. I want to keep it simmering, not just warm. Another nice stir and see it's getting thicker and thicker, and the spoon falls over to prove me wrong. At this point, we're going to give it a little taste test and see how we're doing. Good heat. Needs more chili powder. About a third of a cup more. All nice and stirred up. Lid back on, and another 20 minutes to go. And we are back for our final stirring session. Well, now we got a nice simmer to it. And it smells fantastic. This time we're going to taste it with a fork because it's thick. Oh yeah, that's the money. All right, so one more time we cover it up, and in 20 minutes we eat. So I wasn't sure if I was going to have time to do this, but it looks like I do. I'll have time to finish cooking it and eat it and still get to work on time. There's always the question of how do you serve your chili once it's cooked? And there are many, many, many ways you can do it. Chili dogs are one of my favorites, but I don't have hot dog buns or hot dogs right now, so I went with another option. We're going to do sourdough bread bowls. So you usually find these sourdough bread bowl loaves at your local bakery, and we're going to cut off the top of it. Then we'll start with the knife. Let's see where I've made the slice right around here. And then we're just gonna get in there with our hands, scoop all of this out. I'll leave just like a 1/4 inch of bread around the sides and the bottom. Till it's nice and hollowed out. Nice deep well. we're going to take some Tillamook cheddar again. Now this is my trick for opening a fresh loaf of cheddar. It's got this kind of wax paper wrap around it. So I cut an X across it. And then you can just peel it back. And there we go. Now we're going to take our cheese slicer. Put a slice right in the bottom. Then we're going with a slightly thinner slice. We're going to fold it over the top of the bread. So you got a nice layer around the top like that, and I preheated my oven to 425 degrees. Now when the chili is done, I'm going to fill the bowl of chili, or with chili, and then I'm going to put it on a baking tray and bake it for about 10 minutes until the cheese is starting to run down the sides and gets all melty and stuff, and it'll be delicious. And here we are now about an hour after we've put the last of the ingredients into the pot, stirring it every 20 minutes, get it at a nice simmer. It is now to a point that we can actually eat it, and it should have all the flavors well mixed. If you have the time, feel free to simmer it for another hour, maybe even two. The longer you simmer it, the better it's going to taste. Of course, at the same time, if you're in a hurry to eat, you can eat it after an hour. You throw the rest in Tupperware, throw it in the fridge, and it keeps spreading those flavors, and it'll be even better tomorrow as leftovers. So to finish up our sourdough bread bowl, we're going to scoop up our chili right into the hole. These are pretty small bread bowls. And then garnish it with a bit more shredded cheese, because there's no such thing as too much cheese in my world. We're going to pop that in the oven for about 10 minutes. All right, we're ready to pull the bread out of the oven. Now, I'm pretty sure I already said this, but the oven was preheated to 425. Oh. And that tray is, of course, nice and hot. Now we're just going to grab a spatula, slide it up under the bread, pop it into a bowl. Catch any chili that comes out as you start to break the bread down. Now that I got my oven mitt to stay in place, now final touch, a little bit of nice heavy Tillamook sour cream. And yeah, obviously I'm not all about the presentation. Tastes the same going down either way. And there you have it. chili bread bowl.